Welcome everybody to another episode of Knives Monroe versus the podcast. I'm Knives Monroe. How you guys doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Let's just get right into it, shall we? I got Trent Knox, friend of the show, on the podcast. Trent, how you doing?
Doing very well. Big fan of the show. Watch it every episode. Listen to it every episode.
I just started going daily, so this is the 13th one I would have done in a row. So it's a little new to me, but the reception has been good, man. It's been really good. So we were talking off mic about a whole mess of shit. So let's just get right into it. I'm not a big fan of like he said, she said nonsense. Like I don't want to do that, you know. Could be my ego and like projection talking, but you were just on friend of the show, Brian Kern's podcast, the Common Chaos podcast, and I could sense that you respectfully didn't want to throw my name out there, but I think I came up. Was that fair, or am I projecting?
No.
Okay. I thought that there was a beef that you didn't want to talk about on that show that I assumed was our beef.
I don't think I would. See, now it's like all getting twisted.
Okay, so what? I'll give you an example. You didn't want to mention any names. You said that
exactly.
it's an agree to disagree.
Didn't want to mention the name. That's it. Anybody could look into it and read into it any way they want to. And I'm always willing to come on your show and air out any grievances that you and I both have on the industry and the game, or you and I.
Yeah, same. I think that's what we're doing now. On Kern's show, I think you.
But there's no reason to promote that other places. Like that was my whole thing from the get, was like, I'm not going to go on Brian's show.
But I'm doing it. It's my show.
Promo you.
No, I know, but
I understand you're
I'm
doing it. That's not me though.
Yeah,
that's different.
Okay. That's not you.
The difference.
So let the record show that's not you.
Yeah.
I'm just quoting what was on the show. It's public source. And one thing, and you just tell me if you meant this about me or not, was it's an agree to disagree situation, and we're like two different mechanics. I think you said it was like an Audi and like a Ford or something, or a Dodge, but maybe we're in the same game, but we do different things. Was that towards Knives Monroe?
Before recording this, I was thinking about it. I was driving. It's more like, if we relate it to something that we do, it's more like Dish Network to DirecTV. But at the same point in time, you know, over the course of this conversation, we're going to realize, which I realize, is that it sucks because we're arguing against each other when we should really be arguing about what the fuck is podcast producing.
Oh, we can get into that. I'm more than happy to do that. I came into this conversation hot. You messaged me asking me a question. I gave you my 2 cents, and you were like, and this is why I didn't want to text, you know. And also, let me say this. I'll take some accountability here. I read text, whether if it's Twitter, a text message from my wife, whomever. I read it in like a very offensive tone. It's just
me too, sometimes.
It's just the way it happens. Like, even if it's not. If my wife says I'm hungry, I read that as, hey, come upstairs and bring me something to eat. And she might just be saying, I'm just letting you know I'm hungry, right? And so I read into things. I'm human. I read into things. Mm-hmm. And you had asked me a question about, do I view myself as a pioneer on, you know, as far as a podcast producer? And I said, I don't think I view myself as a pioneer, and I'm trying more and more to not even talk about podcasting. It's so meta. Like on the show, this is meta right now. Like talking about a podcast, it's very meta to me. And you said that's not how my messaging comes off to you. It sounds like if they want to give you an award, they say Knives Monroe podcast producer. Right away, you said it's not how my messaging comes off. And so I'm a big believer in, like, I'll just use a filmmaking example. Like, there are filmmakers that explain what the movie is about after they made the movie. I'm not into that. Like, the movie should speak for itself. And my my podcasts, my art should speak for itself. I'm not interested in arguing with anybody, my mother, like about my messaging per se. But there's an area of opportunity for me. If I'm not being clear about it, then I'm more than happy to be clear about that. So I said, let's just talk on the phone. And you said, well, this should be more of a podcast. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm down to do a podcast. I do one every day, and I have stuff written. I was going to do a solo cast today. I don't have guests lined up today, but this kind of organic thing has been happening to me lately where I get to do a show, freeform. And you want to bring up that topic. Now, you and me off air got into, I'll call it a beef, and I don't want to get into specifics, but it bugged me. And I don't
does
really...
Does that mean that it bugged you in a way that you felt you were inferior to the person that you want to be?
Can you elaborate on that? I don't know what that means.
Basically, you're not the man you want to be. Like, you felt like that there are these weak areas in what you're currently doing.
Oh, you're talking like, did it affect me
positively? In positive, like, I have a goal that I can achieve by looking at this, reading it. Look, this is where I'm not doing the best. I'm not giving 110%. And boom, if I fall, if these are some of the things that I feel like are my not my strongest points, can you get to that point?
Yes, and why does my levels keep changing? Yes,
that's what I intended with the way I was speaking to you, and I can see how
I don't
could
agree
come
with
off
that.
as me just jabbing, stabbing, coming at you.
So I'll say I think that's full of shit.
You think that my coaching or
I think the fact that you're calling it coaching is rather convenient.
I am a coach.
I think it was
that's on my resume.
I think it okay.
So that's
let the record show that if you're saying that today, right now, that was your intent, fine. Then I misread it.
It always was. Did you ever ask me? Were you making assumptions?
I took it as I said something on a podcast about you that you took offense to, and you were hurt. And I apologized.
Okay, that's where your ego is coming into it.
Absolutely.
Because you're putting in a position where you think that in order to get leverage is to make the other person look inferior, which, in my opinion, it was more like you didn't give me the opportunity to rebuttal.
And I apologized for that. Also, it's a podcast. You can't rebuttal. It's a podcast.
You could have phoned me in.
Why? Why would I? It's not. Well, it wasn't my
because
show.
You're not thinking.
I'm supposed to phone in Martin Scorsese because I mentioned him on the podcast. I'm supposed to phone in. Well, you'd be lucky to.
Wouldn't you be?
I mean, so no, the onus was not on me to phone you in. It wasn't my show.
Okay, then it was just talking shit.
And yeah, it was. And I apologized for that. I don't, whether if you accept that.
Well, no, like on record, that never happened.
What? What's on record? Oh, you mean in podcast land? You wanted a public apology? In the public
sphere.
You wanted a public apology?
In the public sphere. Well, you made a public criticism. So, in order to make...
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It's funny because if you make a criticism to me, it's coaching. But if I make a criticism to you...
It's private.
It's a bad joke. Yeah, it's private. The criticism was I made fun of you and your shoes.
Okay.
That bothered you. And I apologize, and I did it publicly on a podcast. And I apologized to you in private because I could tell, oh fuck. I hurt Trent's feelings and I felt like an asshole for it. I was like, if I knew that was going to be the result, I wouldn't have done it. And I hope you do know that. Like, if I knew that I was going to hurt that was going to hurt your feelings, I wouldn't have done it. I razzed you, and I razzed you in public, and I told you, I'm sorry for that. And I apologized a few times. My fucking levels keep going up and down. And if you accept
you need
that,
to turn off Windows audio ducking.
I don't have Windows. I know what you're saying. No, it's not that. It's not that. And I felt really bad about it, but and you took what I said, and I felt you were very hurt, and it was like, I guess maybe the day of, or still very raw. And you said a lot of things that you can't take back, And I don't need to bring what those specifics are. And you're asking me now on the show, do I look at that as an area of opportunity for my code? Or was I hurt because I'm not the man that I want to be? I'm not the man that I want to be. It's a work in progress. Like, I've never promoted myself in any other fashion. You know, I'm the first to say I have suicidal thoughts. I'm the first to say, look, here's my fat body naked on a toilet taking a shit. I'm the first to say I was homeless for 42 days, you know, when I first came to Austin. I'm the first to say all these things. Like, I never try to promote myself in a way that is superior to other people. I'm very confident and proud and loud about my messaging and who I am and my point of view and my taste. But I never think that, I've never even thought in private, like, that I'm better than anybody. And here's the thing, and I'll say this and I'll leave this in the show. If you don't want me to air this, I won't. Like, I have nothing to gain from this, but I think it's like a boxing match. Like, people get to see, or a sparring fight, really. People get to see, you know, Connor and Cowboy spar before the fight, right? And I think that could be valuable for somebody out there that could learn from my mistakes and learn from yours as well. We're both part of podcasting and live streaming, and what we do is making mistakes in real time. And you and me are on-screen personalities. We're behind-the-scene folk, but we're also on-screen personalities.
Yeah.
That's challenging. Not a lot of people can do that. People pay us because they can't do both. We do both. But I made fun of your shoes, and here's where I was coming from. I'll make myself clear, because here's where I was coming from. I'm going to use a very extreme example. Have you ever met a Christian who Bible thumps and they're a hypocrite? They don't live by the code of the Bible. And you cannot help but feel when they placate you, patronize you with literature from the Bible, from the gospel, you feel like, man, you're not a man of God. You don't live those values. So how dare you speak that to me? I take issue with hypocrites like that. Mm-hmm. You promote yourself as a business person, and you have a very unique business philosophy and perspective that truly inspires me. Like, I like talking with you and brainstorming, because you have a brain that I've never met before. Nobody's like you. Everybody else kind of either regurgitates the same information that they were fed from college or from the media, but you have a very tailor-made perspective on business. And when I heard that you bought the Gary Vee shoes, that felt like I understand supporting the cause. I bought his books, but that felt like almost like counterintuitive to how I perceive your business. Gary's whole mantra, as we all know, Gary Vee, is hustle, hard work. If you hate your day job, quit the day job, and like fuck doing shit you hate, and all those, you know, cloud versus dirt and all his whole brand. I don't know if I see you agreeing with Gary's thesis, with Gary's content, by and large. I don't know if I see you as someone that carries the Gary Vee flag and says, this is a role model for me, and I do these things. Because when you ask me for business advice, part of the reason why I fuck with Gary's content is I found someone that was saying things that I felt inside. And that's why I still stick around with Gary, because he says things that I agree with. Would I buy his shoes? No. Like, I don't care about material things. That's just me. I don't care what anybody does or what anybody supports. But I just found it hypocritical that you bought the Gary Vee shoes, because I don't strike you as someone that agrees with that stuff. I don't. So that's why on the show, when it came up in an impulsive land, and I'm not making an excuse, because, you know, anytime you make a joke at a friend's expense, I don't care who you are unless you're a sociopath. There's a gatekeeper that comes up, and I made the conscious choice to override the gatekeeper, and I went ahead and said, what a mark, what a mark. And a mark, by definition to me, is someone that is a man in the crowd, not the man in the arena. And I look at you as a man in the arena. I love professional wrestling, but I've never gone to a wrestling show, like a live television show, and like bought the shirt and carried the sign and been like, woo, like in a live show. And like, that's really hard for me to do. I wish I could be that, but I would much rather be behind the scenes and like have these guys be my friends. Like being a mark is like, I would never walk up to a celebrity that I really loved and like want to take a picture and all that. And I just don't want to be like that, you know, like I don't. I'd rather be the guy in the arena that someone comes up to me and wants to take a picture. That's just always the way I've seen that. So hopefully I've laid this out, but, you know, you buying those shoes I thought was worth commenting on at the time. Do I regret it? Yeah, I shouldn't have said anything, and you're right. And, you know, we weren't operating in that moment at the same level of respect. And I fucked up. And I apologize to you. And I felt really bad about it. And you said a lot of things out of anger, I guess, saltiness, we'll just say, that you can't take back. And I thought didn't fit the Raz that I put out in public. It wasn't comparable. Like, instead it was like, you know what? Let me tell you how I really feel about you. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, you know, attacking my character and shit and my values. And I was like, fuck, okay, you know. And I told you, air it all out, because now's the time. Like, just get it out of your system. And you did. And I chewed on it and I meditated on it for a while. And I still supported you. You know, obviously I'm a fan and I support your brain. And like, anytime I get something that I can't do that's for Trent's business, I try to throw your way. You know, I've tried to throw a few opportunities your way, just because that's my way of supporting someone like me. And all that just to say I felt salty about it. And if you want to talk about business, if you want to talk about the culture and how, as a podcaster, we relate to one another and what we can do for the cause, I'm so for that. But let's get that elephant out of the room, because truthfully, we disagree like on each other's souls, apparently, like at each other's, the content of our characters. Like, we can't even talk about business philosophy and podcasting game land unless we get that shit out of the way. So honestly, I feel like I've laid the ground out, and thank you for letting me vomit those words out, but I'm sure you have a lot to say. And I'm going to give you the space to say it without interrupting.
Yeah, so I don't have to take any offense for you going towards the hypocrite route, because I even sometimes consider myself like not 100% the man that I want to be. And I've said that a million times on all my podcasts. The way that went was, you know, you're like that too, right? And that's why I was like category 1, Dakota, category 2, Keith, category 3, you working for the soldier program, right? It's like, you want to be your own man, but you're not doing it. You're preaching the gospel, but you're not practicing. So that's where I came out with that. It was like, why did you fire me saying I'm, you know, like that, when the reason why I buy into programs like this is because I don't have a preference over Catholicism or Protestantism. I don't care. Ultimately, I'm going to read the books, Tim Ferriss, you know, Grant Cardone. I'm going to listen to Gary Vee, all these names that we're dropping here. And I'm going to take my little, you know, piece of that, my Powerpuff Girls version of that, and try and put together my little piece of My Little Pony or whatever. So as I'm doing this and I'm making myself look like something that you know, is ironically not manly, you know, because we're trying to accomplish something that maybe never have been or is ever going to be in reach, is being a true macho man. But it's like, I apologize on record for the things that I said in private about those things, because they don't have anything to do with you. And that's why I was like, why does Knives not voice his opinion on these things when I know he knows that if there are these frauds, why are you providing them a platform? Why are you providing these frauds more of a platform than they actually have? And it doesn't make sense. So maybe we can critique it as being like, are we 85, 75% fraud? Where are we on that Richter scale, or, you know, a spectrum of autism as they go these days? Where are we on that? So whenever I have a conversation with anyone, it's not necessarily, I think when I was growing up and I was, you know, into fighting people and fist fighting and that sort of thing, it was an attack on you specifically. You know, it was like, we've got to go to the playground and we're going to knock it out with lightsabers today. Like, there's no way we're going to do this anytime other way. But as an adult, you can't behave that way. It has to be a bigger picture conversation of like, why do people have these mannerisms? Why do people have a behavior like this? And how can we adjust it? You know what I mean? Even for me, when I think of it like, okay, I'm a hypocrite. What can I do? What executables can I do to make myself better? And one of those things is, I didn't really want to do this particular podcast this way, but I felt like that now is the only time to get it done, if we get it done, because I want to move forward. And I really wanted to set it up where we went into a studio and we were face to face, like the way that you like to do it, because this is kind of an arena that I play in a lot, is this virtual voice chat kind of call situation, which I have had the benefit, which indirectly you're related to with the Robert Gardner situation, is that I produced that show. You know what I mean? And as that show develops, it's going to get better. But I was listening to another podcast earlier, and they were talking about how nobody respects you in your come up. They see your stuff and they're like, "Oh, he's trying to do something different." And that difference is, you know, making a beat that goes boop 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 or something like that, instead of the EDM Martin Garrix of things. So ultimately, like, I don't know at what point, like, I don't know if you see me as your peer or anything like that, even though we have relatively the same amount of time in the game, given that you're 6 years older than I am, right? 32?
Yeah, I'll be 32 in March.
So you're 6 years older than me, and it's just like, I can never catch up to you as far as that goes. But it's like, I'd rather long term the work that we do be like the criticisms of our work rather than our character. It's like, yeah, I wore some shoes, but does that make a difference when we're operating with a full staff of 15 people? But you and I have had a conversation where you'd rather, I don't know if this is true now, rather be a solopreneur than someone who's part of a team.
No, I've never said that. Okay, so you said a few things, and that were...
Well, I should put it this way. I should rephrase it, because you don't want to work for someone else.
No, I don't. No.
So being a part of the team, you rely on others, and others rely on you.
That's correct.
So it's like, there's some responsibility to that.
Of course. But it goes back to, so that, let me talk about that bit, and I'll go back to something that you said. Yes, I am a team player. I've always said I want to play the tambourine in the background. Yeah. I don't want to be the Trent Reznor. I don't want to be the lead singer of the band. I don't. I've had to do that because making a movie requires a skeleton crew and so on. This is why podcasting really works for me, because all I need is me. And I don't even need a computer. All I need is my phone. I'm always on my phone, so it works. But going, like, to me, like, the whole, do I want to work with a team, all that stuff, am I solopreneur, all that, I want you, okay, so in order to say what you want to say and do what you want to do in life, you can't do that in fear. And if you're afraid where your money's coming from, if you're afraid, if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to get fired, well, then you can't be free. So when you're your own boss, you can say basically whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, Squarespace can pull out and all these things, but I'm my own boss, and I like that. Do I want to do that? Yeah, of course. It's financial freedom. Of course I want that. Yeah. So there's that. But you said something about fraudulence, and that I don't, whatever, that I don't practice what I preach or whatever. And I take umbrage with that personally. And I can get over it. Like, I'm not personally offended, snowflake, feelings hurt right now. No, but I just want to make something very clear as far as me. Like, and I must have said this. This might be like the third or fourth time I've said this on a podcast with you. Mm-hmm. People get it twisted. Like, I think people look at me and they say, must be nice. I don't want to fuck with those people. When people look at me, they should say, good for you. I want to be around that culture, the good for you culture. The must be nice shit, kiss my ass, right? But people look at me and they think must be nice, but they weren't there for, like I said, the 6 weeks being homeless. They weren't there when, before I met Dakota, I was making vlogs on my phone and a selfie stick, and that's all I had. That's what got me the gig, not the fancy equipment, not the fancy gear. Was making, all I had was my phone and a selfie stick, and I was doing a sales job downtown, and I didn't have a car, and I was taking a bus, 3-hour commute every single day in the morning, blah, 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 waking up at 3 in the morning, working out before, and all that. Like, nobody sees that, and that's fine. Tony Robbins says you get rewarded in public for what you do in private, and I think that's what he means. You know, it's like what Gary says, once again, I connect with this, about the Kobe Bryant 10,000 free throws, before practice. I'm all about that. Instead, we look at these final products. I'm not a final product. If you see me that way, or anybody, that's a projection. Part of the reason why I do this show is to dispel that. Like, I am human. I bleed. I'm flawed. Like, a lot of these podcasts aren't perfect. Like, I'm trying to reach, not perfection, but I'm trying to reach mastery. And I do look at you, peer, as that. But we're also not aligned when it comes to money. And money's it's what business is all about. We're not aligned with that.
I think it's different.
Well, let me just finish that.
Let me lifestyle.
Oh yeah, definitely not in lifestyle. But before, I was able to make a living in Austin. Before, in my hometown, I was in Section 8 housing, which I've been public about, and government cheese, food stamps, like all that, very poor community. And it was just me and my family, and I was trying to make, a dollar out of a dime, and I didn't have a cent on me. All that. Still trying to make movies, all that. Like, I've always looked at my life like I was the straight life, like college, a job, security. All that shit was like cheating on my passion, all of that. When I worked at Walmart, when I worked at McDonald's, when I worked at Burger King, when I worked at House of China, like all these dead-end bullshit jobs were just an alibi so I could get put on and have an opportunity and at bat. I was all about that. So I never really, I have a family, I have 2 kids, so how could we have the same lifestyle? You're an eligible bachelor. You can do whatever the fuck you want. And I respect that too. Like, that's cool. I lived that life. I did that. I fucked around. That. It's whatever. But I chose this life, and this is the bed, and I make it every single day. So we don't have to be aligned in lifestyle,
because that can be taken out of context and very negative. Is I'm not fucking around. Like, my life is planned and organized and strategic. I'm not fucking around.
What did I say?
Someone else maybe.
What did I say that was that? What did I say that made you say that?
You're 25. You're an eligible bachelor. You're fucking around.
Well, what I mean is you don't have kids. So when people that don't have kids...
Does that mean fucking around not having kids?
Not to me. Does it to you?
Okay. Now it's clarified.
Well, here's the thing. And we're going to talk about this, and I'm glad you illustrated that. There's going to be half the listeners that heard what you heard. There's going to be half the listeners, the parents, that heard what I meant. I think, and this is part of the reason that, like,
I hear what you're saying.
Of course,
you're responsible. You're responsible for kids, and so if you were doing what I would be doing, it'd be fucking around. No, because you wouldn't be looking over your kids.
No. Because I have my kids, like, they take a lot of my time, and I hear a lot of people who don't have children think that they don't have time. I empathize with that, but I cannot tell you, this is me and only me, the amount of hours I wasted daydreaming, plotting, scheming, whatever, when I did not have kids compared to what I do now. I don't have time to waste. You know, you can, if you wanted to, take a business meeting at midnight, take a business meeting at 6 a.m. You know, I can't. You know, it's hard. It's hard. So, anyways,
well, I still have people to answer to.
But here's the thing.
It's not like
of course,
I mean? It's not
but it's not the same. As much as you'd like to think it is, it's not. And I'm not saying you think it is the same, but it is not. Especially if you're a business owner. When someone owns a business and they decide to have kids, like, or rather, if you have kids and you decide to start a business, that's like trying to have another kid. You know, it's not going to give you more free time, right? So, and the parents out there listening totally understand that, because this shit is hard. And especially when they're babies, it's hard. When they go to school, it's a little easier. Anyways, I didn't want, and you throw me off a lot when we talk, because you'll pick up on something and you'll assume a negative. I call that.
No.
Hold on. I call that auto negging. It's a coin I termed.
What I think you're doing is talking to one audience, and that's frustrating.
I'm speaking my truth. And if you want to take a sidebar and say, "Hey,"
no, I agree.
I'm speaking my truth.
I agree with you.
When I said you're an eligible bachelor, you are. You are.
No, I see what I understand.
Of course.
So what I'm trying to say is, I think that for you, I think this is my opinion. For you, it'd be great if you spoke your truth, but then you thought about the other demographic that's out there.
Okay.
That's listening to you.
Okay.
So you're not just speaking to parents. You're not just speaking to people like Knives.
No, I'm not. I am broadcasting my personal experience. How people interpret that, it ain't up to me. It goes back to the filmmaking thing. If I make a movie, it's not my responsibility to tell you what my intent was. A mirror is a movie. What you see is as valid as what my intent was when I made it.
That's where the trouble comes when we do something, you know, as artists, is because we just want to make art. We want to put it out there. We want people to see it. You want to give them either pain or pleasure. Sometimes it's pain, sometimes it's pleasure. I don't know what your goal is as far as it goes, but you put that out there, people perceive it, and that's their perception.
That's right.
The trouble of it is that Robert talks about this, is people follow the modality. They don't follow the finished product. So it's like, if you got to the point where, you know, you feel happy with what you've done, will people know? Like, is that, or how do they know you're happy? Or how do they know you're sad? How do they know that based off of if you're just putting out the product there for people to make their own assumptions?
A part of me doesn't care about that, because who's making that judgment? And we're in the weeds, and I this is what I don't want to do. But
this is art.
No, hold. I know exactly what you're doing, Trent, and I don't like it. Yeah. But I got to cut these weeds. You see, it happened. I'm off my fucking rails. When someone listens to this, the 200 people that hear this today, that's one context. But then there's 200 people that listen to it tomorrow. And then there's 200 people that hear it in 2030. Like, I'm supposed to articulate every single context to everybody that comes from so many different No. Like, the work is what it is, and people have to reckon with that. It is what it is. If I made a comedy special in 1987, you can reckon with that. But it's my diligence as an artist to constantly updating the firmware and the software. You want to talk about the iPhone 4. I'm past the iPhone 4. I'm talking about the iPhone fucking 11 Pro Max right now, okay? And I can have a conversation about the iPhone 4, but why? It is what it is. Put it in a museum. Like, that's what art is to me. It's out, and this is why I like doing it daily. Some shows are better than others. I did a show, I won't say which one, that was like an uphill battle. Like, it was really hard. My guest was giving me nothing, and we went an hour, and it was fine, but it made me stronger. And we're in the weeds. When I was doing one podcast a month, I was in my head. I was like, overthinking things. When I'm doing it daily, it's okay, because I have another at bat tomorrow. I let it go. You grow exponentially because of that. And so I'm living this. It's fluid, right? And you want to lock it into a silhouette. Water doesn't have a silhouette, okay? So there's that.
Wait, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. So anyways,
So that's odd, because
you do this thing.
You're saying you're going off the rails. You're
Yeah.
saying I'm trying to, and if I'm directing you to take you off the rails, then how am I the one putting you in a silhouette, in a box?
Okay, I'm not going to answer that. When you heard that I called you an eligible bachelor and you auto-negged it, you assumed, I guess, the negative connotations that come with that.
No. The end part, fucking around. That was the part that I was frustrated with. Let's go back to it.
I can go back and play it back
around.
and hear what I said if you want, but I don't see the purpose
that's
of that.
fine.
You made it clear.
You
told the audience, by the way, I'm not lazy. And okay, that's fine. I didn't say that you I don't know. Like, I didn't say that you were, like, whatever. I'm a parent and you're not. It's different. So but people don't, they didn't see the
Nobody knows that, though. Nobody knows that unless you really voice it every episode. I'm a parent. This is where I come from.
So I have to deliver my messaging. I'm quite redundant. Like, I say, gosh,
definitely.
like I have to tell people
that's
my name's.
What I'm trying to say.
I have to tell people my name's KNIVESMONROE. It's my real name. I'm from Austin, Texas. I was born in Tulsa, but I moved to Dallas, and I lived in the Valley. McAllen, Harlingen, Brownsville, South Padre Island there, and I grew up in a Hispanic, and I have to do that all the time, and that's fine. I don't have to do that with you. So
I do.
At any rate,
I as well.
you do the auto-negging thing that you do bugs me. But it's like a jiu-jitsu sparring battle. It's like you try to,
I'm not sure I understand.
I like the grapple.
I'd like to understand that. I don't understand the auto-negative. Looking at it from an auto-negative perspective.
I'll give you an example.
Because I don't understand
I
don't understand that.
I'll paint a
also
picture.
don't understand the fucking around the end part. Being an eligible bachelor is my life.
Okay.
It's where I'm living.
Totally cool.
Being 26 now, a little older than what you were saying. But the number one, we dived into this, and back to what I said that after this is that we're in two different modalities of kind of the same thing, but I do respect
and that's okay.
what you do.
Well, thanks.
I
I respect what you do as well. I wouldn't have introduced you to Dakota Meyer if I didn't. I remember the first time I was on you and Kern's show, I think it was Austin Live and Local. Mm-hmm. That's where or maybe it was the first time we met. I was like, I'm just lucky.
Well, the first time we met
hold on. I've gone on public record for years telling people I don't think I'm talented. I'm not talented. I push the little red button. I'm fucking mediocre, but I don't stop. That's all I got. So me introducing you to my former employer was just, I thought, here I am transitioning, doing a new thing. If I can help out this guy, all you can do is that. Like, I can never pay back Dakota what he, like, monetarily, what he did it for me, how he invested in me. Never. Probably never. But he's told me, like, just pay it forward. Just pay it forward, man. And so I looked at you and I was like, let me try to do that. And all I did was get you a meeting. And it's the same thing with, I went to a podcast networking event and I thought of you, So I look at you as a hungry creative. Now, here's where the auto-negging comes in. Maybe I underestimate your hunger. And if I say, dude, there's a coconut up in that tree. I know where the coconut tree is. You want to know where the coconut tree is? You'll be like, I don't really like coconuts. And then I feel, I overestimated how hungry he was. Because I've been this is a metaphor, an allegory. Yeah. I've been starving where I'll fucking eat crumbs in between people's toes. It's a projection thinking that you could be that hungry, that you would be that hungry. It's a projection in thinking your hunger is the same as mine. And so I get excited when I find a new tree and I'm like, hey, there's a coconut tree. Who wants it? And then people are like, nah. Or here are these berries. This is cognitive dissonance, the metaphor. Yeah. Here are these berries. If I'd get up there and do the work to get those berries, they'd probably be salty anyways. As opposed to, or I could take those berries and sell them, or I could take those berries and plant my own berry tree. Instead, there's this auto negative, and it's just like it's automatic.
You might not know this. You don't know this, and this doesn't have anything like that you wouldn't know about this, is that some of the circumstances that we're talking about here, and let's be specific about this podcaster meetup, Austin podcast meetup that happened on Saturday. I've already, in your words, been to that tree. I've beat up that tree before. So when I think about it, I'm like, man, last time I was involved myself with that tree, it was so bare that like if I did it again, what happens, you know? Yeah. Like again, god damn, this is my life. I always get fucked. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I've already beat up that tree before, you know, and you've been there too. You probably do the same thing. Sort of like the situation with Robert is where I invite you to go do things and you're like, man, like it's got to be a different situation. Already barked up that tree. I've already done that.
For me, it's I've told those stories.
Yeah, been there, done that. Yeah, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So
yeah, and I never made the commitment to go do that because I didn't want to let you down. I don't want to make the commitment. I don't want to Irish goodbye people. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to do that.
But there is a sense of those type of things, and I don't know, man. The whether it's tied to the military, tied to just being a podcaster, to being tied to these things that sort of put me in a caricature or an archetype. I'm wary of getting myself too invested in the thing, you know, and then being like, man, I knew I was gonna get fucked over by this.
Okay,
this
so
thing.
I'm glad you said that and not me.
Yeah,
because in business, bro, Stephen Covey's The Speed of Trust. Here's one of these gems, and it's true. Like, if you and me trust each other, we can conduct business at a rapid pace, and
we do.
Yes, but if we don't, business is going to be tedious. We're not going to look forward to it. We're going to get diarrhea because of it, social anxiety. There's all these negative things to it, right?
Yeah.
If you're a fucking businessman, and not everybody is, everybody can pretend to be. It's so much easier to appear that you are or to act like you are. But if you're a businessman, everything's an opportunity. You never know. One thing could lead to something, could lead to another, could lead to another. It leads to nothing 90% of the time. I agree with that. I think that's a fact. Sometimes you get to meet Trent Knox and Brian Kern. If I didn't go to that event with Tanner, and Tanner was my in, I wouldn't have met you guys. Good shit.
Brian was...
No. Tanner brought me in, and Louis, right? I would never say his name right. Is it Louis? Who was there? Yeah. Well, I've seen him at the gym a few times. I would have never met you guys, and good shit has come out of that one meeting that I otherwise wouldn't have gone to because of my own crippling anxieties. And my agoraphobia, you know, but I did my best. And people think I'm being disingenuous when I say, you know, I just got this the other day. Oh, Knives, you don't strike me as someone that would be agoraphobic. And it's like, well, this is an invisible, you're asking me to wear an invisible thing that's in me. I can't do that, you know? So, but it's true. But you know what? 98% of the time, it's shit. It's shit. But real business people, you know, I just don't think you can be a good businessman and automatically assume negative. You can't. No. And read the biographies.
But that's not like, you know, it's not without reason.
Of course. And experience and history, for sure. You said to yourself, like, I've already done that. I've been to the tree. Like, I already went up that tree. But what happens when it's a new tree? You know? And here's the thing. I'm not trying to... I can't count. I don't hold grudges. Like, trust me, there have been people that have fucked me real hard, and I've forgiven them and moved on, and I don't dwell, and I do it for me, right? And I don't think you're one of those people, but like I'm talking about like my father and other people. But and so I don't hold grudges, and I also don't count favors. I don't count. Well, you know, how many things have I done for Trent, or on the flip side, like, what has he done for me? I don't do that. Like, everything's, you know, let's use this as an example. Like, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, Joey Diaz, Ari Shaffir, Joe Rogan, they all elevate each other. They all go on each other's platforms and promote on each other's programs and everything, but they help each other. Nobody's taking count of who's helped who the most or less, or who hasn't helped me most recently. And if you do, you're a douchebag and you get out of the circle. And I looked at you as a guy, because I got so few people out here, as like a guy in my circle. And when I hurt your feelings on public, I felt away and I felt shitty about it, and I deserved to feel shitty about it. And I did. And I wasn't telling you how to feel and how you shouldn't feel. Instead, I said, get it all out, because I couldn't tell the difference between someone who's throwing a fit, you know, like the childhood, let's go play lightsabers in the schoolyard metaphor that you use, a childish sort of reaction of like, I'm going to say whatever I can to hurt you or whatever. Like, I couldn't tell the difference between that in that moment and what was actually brewing inside you, the truth. And you said some things to me where I was like, it did hurt some insecurities. And I was like, oh, he felt this way about me? But I try so hard not to be that guy. I try so hard. Like, I don't think I'll give you an example. Like, I don't flex. Like, I don't think I do. Like, there are people that, man, why is this weird? There are people that really flex and show people, look at how good I got it. I'm on a private jet. I don't do that. I don't want to do that. That's not what gives me a boner, like, anyways. But then when somebody accuses me as like being like this guy that like will bury other people for like my starlight, I'm like, no, I don't. Like, and so it hurt that you said it. It didn't hurt because I thought it was true. It hurt because, oh, he feels this way about me. Like, he's either spazzing, you know, because when you feel like, when you're in that state of mind of you're hurt, like, everything around you hurts. Like, everything. The color blue will hurt you if it's around you, if you're in that state of mind, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was all, I got it. And I also, like I said, I don't hold these grudges. I don't put these bullets in my clip. But at the same time, like, I don't think we can get to the field goal range, you and me, in the game of life, if we don't squash that or address that and try to better both of ourselves. Like, I can only better myself, and you're on your own path. But yeah,
going down another road or something here. Like, no, definitely. I think that the criticism for sure is that you do those things. At least on the Instagram, you were doing them for a minute.
Like what?
Where you were flexing a little bit. Maybe you wouldn't think of that as flex because you're kind of laughing at it, like, haha, I'm in Hawaii. Haha, I'm on a jet. Haha, I'm flying around with my job. I've got a job.
Yeah, I got a job.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, like, you're playing it off like that, but there are a lot of people out there that don't have that, don't live that lifestyle.
I know.
You know,
totally. I know that. I used to be one of those people. I know. I do.
Yeah, but now you are flexing it because now you are the person that you set out to be, sort of. Maybe not all the way, but sort of.
You know, that's a check. You know, you got your bishop on e4, and you got me in check for sure. It's not a checkmate, but I feel that, like, you know, you sunk the battleship there. Like, I do think that's true. And you need, and I say this a lot, like, I want to be around other like-minded geniuses. Mm-hmm. Parenthetically, I view myself as a genius, you know? Like, I view myself as, I ain't fucking around either, you know? And so you need close-knit people around you to tell you that respectfully and say, okay, Knives, you might not think that, but you do. And that's true. And that, you know, that's, I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I haven't processed that. Like, I don't know what to do about it. But then when you say, you invite me to your mansion, Knives, and you make me look like shit on your podcast and all that, and I was like, there's so much there to unpack. And I was like, mansion? Like, fucking mansion? Fucking mansion? Fuck. Like, what the fuck? And this is going to sound like a flex, and I don't mean it like that, but, like, I've been in mansions. This ain't no motherfucking mansion, but also at the same time, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but I would never, like, put you on my show and make you look like shit. And you said something, and I may have projected this. Like, maybe this is not what you said, but you had said, like, on a different podcast, like, I won and the other person lost. And I was like, I don't look at things in this paradigm. Like, I don't see things as winning and losing. Like, I also don't live for cash, grass, and ass. I don't live for that. Maybe that's a privilege or a luxury or whatever, but That's not like it's people, man. It's people on my contact list.
Yeah,
Not
you don't.
for not
Okay,
for
I see what you're
clout.
saying.
Not for clout. Not for my
For
dick
living
is
your best life, you don't live for cash, ash, and grass.
for living my best life.
You live for family. You live for food. You live for the nuances of what you like and love.
My point of view, and this is real talk. Like, I understand the money. Like, I get it. And there's money to be made. There's fucking money to be made. For me, man, the validation, you can't put a price on that. The validation. Working with Dakota was, oh, fuck. I don't even want to get, I'll cut this out. Like, I don't even want to get emotional about it. But it was validating, dude. Like, it was very validating. Like, someone who I respected, but also a celebrity who could bring me on full time.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't think I was a piece of shit, that didn't think I was a hack, that, you know, thought that I had some talent. There are friends, childhood friends that I grew up with, that I loved, that I bled with and cried with, that when it comes down to the showdown would not be there for me. Dakota's a guy that, honestly, and I can say this without a shadow of a doubt, and I can't say this about any other man in my life, but he would die for me. He would kill for me. You know? And that's real. That's fucking real, man. That's deep and that's real. I love him. I appreciate his friendship. I would kid around with him, low-key kid around, and say, when we were in the thick of it, I might not be your best friend, but you're my best friend, you know? Because when I wasn't thinking about him, I was guilty when I wasn't thinking about him. And I loved him. And he gave me wings. He made me a professional. I did not feel like a professional podcaster, video guy, whatever, until his cosign. That's when I was like validated. Even though, yes, as a true Christian, you're validated in the eyes of God. Of course, I know this. But I became a Christian like in the first 6 months of working with him, right? So a lot of stuff happened at the same time. Anyways, at the same time, like, you know, when you transact, there's a difference between favors and like transactions. And I'll do a favor for a friend, and it's what it is. Like, that's also life. I ain't gonna, if my sister got married, yeah, I could probably make money off her wedding, but I'd probably film it for free, for real, you know? And same thing with
I think that's where I'm frustrated.
I know. And same thing with Dakota. Like, I'll do favors for him because we're friends. But if he wants to pay me for something, sometimes
But are you
that
just
transaction.
saying that?
No. So, and because I've done it.
Because when I asked you to come and shoot for Robert, and I asked you for a favor, you're like, ah, man, I can't commit to anything.
Yeah, that's true. It's 9 p.m. and I have a life with kids and I work full time, right? I was like, to do that as a favor, I never led you on. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I was like, be surprised if I show up.
But you're scrutinizing me for saying that as a businessman, you'd never give up an opportunity. You should always go the extra mile, 110%. So it just doesn't fit.
I didn't say that. What I said was the auto negative thing. With Robert, I worked with him for a year before you got into the picture, you know? Like, I've done stuff with him, you know, and it's all good. I've done the Thai massage jams. I've filmed 0.5 terabyte of content for him. Like, I've done it, you know? And I think
that's where the things get money, because it's like, yeah, there's an additional relationship involved, but I thought this specifically was like something between you and I. Like, it wasn't between you, I, and Robert. It was, I need to see if I can accomplish this project, this form of art. And, you know, it was just double because another person that was supposed to be there, you know, an Austinite, one of those Austinites, you know, didn't show up.
Me? You're talking about me?
No, not you.
Oh.
Another person. I don't remember.
But that's also not
what
like
the name is, but
that's not your fault. Me not going, and also
no, but you
it's
and
not your fault.
Another guy.
It's also not your fault.
Guy. That's where it starts to build up.
It's not your fault though. It's not your fault.
But then the end result is I'm responsible for the product that I don't deliver. So it's like I had to do a lot to I had to do extra things within that world to like you're saying, doing favors, because I consider Robert a friend to some degrees, in order to I guess that's where it gets frustrating, is because I don't know how to value what I do. I don't know the monetary value.
And that's great. It's great that you don't know that, because when you start with that, then you can get in problem-solving mode. Problem-solving mode is what I preach. Not give it 110%, give the old college try, like, fuck all, whatever that means. Like,
I think it's frustrating, though, when it's like the ha-ha moment. It's like, aha, you didn't go to the 30-plus people podcast meetup. It's like, oh, shit. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's when it's like, like you're like just in that frustrated zone, because that's 30 people to interface with, 30 more networks to go down. That's
Dude,
30 more.
I'm in conversations right now where I'm consulting, and it may lead to money, but I don't start with that. I don't start with that.
No, me neither. Yeah, the consulting space is a weird space, because how do you develop that into a monetized lane? Because
here's what I find happens organically. But let me close the loop, because I might either cut that entire segment, to be honest, of what we talked about with all that. I'm trying to, I have a business, but I am not at the level of my employers, obviously, because the biggest expense for business is the people, but it's also how you scale. And it's easier for someone to pay me for the bullshit that they don't want to do. And it's not good when, here's the terrible thing about artists. This is all of our problems in the beginning.
But what you want to facilitate, I just want to enter this before I forget, is that you want to do the things that they can't do, not the things that they don't want to do.
Sometimes it's both.
Yeah, sometimes it's both.
Sometimes money is easier. Money's just easier. I have a friend from high school who wanted a favor, and I said, no, you're my homie, like, I'll do this for you. And she was like, it's a lot easier if I just pay you. And I get that. But also, it goes back to what you said. I struggle with this too, like, your value. My value, like, I did something for Robert for 2 days, and we never talked about money. He ended up paying me, but I never talked about money. And people would ask me there on site when he was massaging people, how much is he paying you? I'm like, I would protect his image, and I would say, what I get paid to do what I'm doing right now is in the thousands, which is true. It's in the thousands to do what I do. And they just look at, like, they're like, damn, Robert must be making money. But I didn't say he didn't pay me, because he didn't. And I wasn't there to be paid. I owed him. That's why I was there. I felt like I owed him. I had filmed something for him once, and I lost the footage. And that fucking killed me. And so when he was like, there's this thing this weekend, I was like, I'll do it. And I had to say no to other opportunities to do it that were paid, and I did it. He ended up paying me something anyways, and I was like, well, that's cool. He's a good businessman. He gets it. He doesn't want to do me dirty like that, and it's whatever. But the onus was on me, and if I had charged him what I think I'm worth, we wouldn't have been able to do it. That's the thing. And so sometimes you do sell yourself short when it's a transaction. When it's a favor, it's easier for me to just be like, I'd rather just not even talk about money. Let's just do this. I'll give you another example. A friend, not even a real friend, someone I knew, was like, can you record my wedding? And I said, absolutely not. They're like, well, what do you charge? And I said, I don't do weddings. And if I did, I would charge you $10,000, and I'm not going to do it. You don't have that money. Yeah. And she was like, oh, come on.
Does your mom ever call you and say, like, yo, why aren't you doing weddings?
No, but I used to have those conversations with ex-girlfriends on the come up. Yeah. And I'd say, I'm a filmmaker. Like, I'm not that guy. But here's the thing. Like, it's a common theme on this podcast. Anytime I talk to a filmmaker or a video person, it's like, how many weddings have you done? Because it's all in the game. And
never done any weddings.
Needless to say, I filmed her wedding. I did it for free.
Oh, nice.
And I also told her.
I've done one wedding.
I told her, get a photographer and pay them so you can have your commercial shit. Because I don't do that, but I'll make my little vlog indie film thing for her, and I did. Yeah. And I just didn't. She could have paid me, but dude, I've been. And it's something I don't talk about. Maybe I've never said.
Can I ask you a question about this real quick?
Of course.
About weddings?
Sure.
Do you feel like the videographer can paint the narrative of the wedding and maybe like shape the way the wedding or the marriage will long term
No,
last?
I don't know. No, no, maybe, but no. I don't think people. I think the wedding day is a drop in the bucket in a marriage. And at least,
Hmm.
I don't think the video is going to be like, let's stay together for the video. No, I don't think people give a fuck about
But
aesthetics.
you know how like people reminisce on that. You know, if they go back to that,
Sure,
they might find that,
they
you
could.
know, if you painted a good picture, then you never know.
They could. They could. Um, I have done weddings and quinceañeras that were fucking disasters. That
Yeah.
clients were like, "I'm just gonna pay you half of what we said," and I would be like, "Okay," because I fucked up,
Hmm.
and that really hurts. And it's easier just to be like, "I want the control. I want the leverage. I'll
Yeah.
do it for free." You know, and if you want like the real one, pay someone, but I'll do my thing for
Hmm.
free. And that's where that's
Yeah.
come from. You know, I'm not saying it's smart business or whatever. Sometimes it is smart to do free stuff. There's
Well, for
favors.
weddings, like a plate, you get a plate, you get the, you know, you get the amenities of a wedding for free, right?
Oh yeah, yippee! Wow. I mean, I guess I don't care about that. There are
I mean,
people.
like what I'm saying is like you
There are
don't
people.
go into it like some free
There are
things.
people
Like
that
some
make
free things are
real
like
money,
fuck.
dude, in weddings. There's like I don't want to
Oh
poo-poo
yeah,
that. It's a genre. Like it's fucking
because
legit.
drones are so big in weddings nowadays.
But also, it's a lot of work, dude. You know, and so people turn it around real fast, and you can make $1,500 in a weekend. It's so real.
Absolutely.
And that's cool. And if I was all about the money, I'd probably be doing that. But I ain't. Like I like
Does that type
meaningful
of
work.
videographer just like sit at the chapels or wherever, like the, you know, like how do they hustle that? You know,
There's
like do
I
they just like sit at the court office and like, oh, you're getting what? You're getting married?
it's
You know,
refer
let me.
it's business, dude. So there's only three ways to scale a business, and that's
Yeah,
referrals,
yeah,
increasing your customers, and raising your rates. So
yeah,
a lot of that business is referrals. You know, it's like, hey, you know, you did this for person's wedding. Can you do mine? And you book them in
yeah,
advance and all that.
absolutely.
It's word of
Yeah,
mouth for sure, for sure.
yeah.
And I respect that. Like I ain't poo pooing that.
That's a grind. There's the wedding
It
grind
is a
for sure.
grind, and like the true bosses will get paid 1,500 to do a wedding and pay two videographers $300 that day each, and then stay home and collect the 1,000. You know,
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah,
smart
we talked
business
about
person.
something like that before.
That's a smart business person, you know, and so I respect that. But look,
But there's a risk in that too. You know,
you see, like I feel like you're doing it right now. You're focusing on a potential negative as opposed to focusing
so
more
this is
on the
something that Jeff
upside.
Bezos does.
Okay.
Jeff Bezos calls it the regret minimization factor. So you look at something and you're like, okay, so what percentage of the risk am I going to get in invested to reward? So when I look at it, I'm like, oh well, if you invest $300 in two videographers and they fuck off, then you're just like you're out 300, and then you additionally to that, you most likely, I don't know if they paid up front for a wedding or something like that, but you would have to completely forfeit
And that
that.
happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's why most wedding videographers, you know, require a deposit. Pay me half up front, half when it's over, right? So
Hmm.
you paid me the 750 up front, so I can afford the two videographers, and say I outsource my editing, right? And so what you're
Hmm.
selling is the brand, what you're selling is the trust, you're selling the final product.
Yeah.
That's a business owner operator, and I respect that. That's not the only way to run the show, but that's a way. As opposed to,
Hmm.
yeah, if you think about all the bad shit that's going to happen before you go on a cruise, you're not going to go on a cruise, right?
I think as an individual, that makes more sense. But as someone who's, you know, operating with additional videographers, the risk needs to be, you know, definitely taken into account. As an individual who says I'm gonna go shoot a wedding, you know, screw it. If you fuck up, then you give the money back. You know what I mean? That makes sense. What about music videos?
What about them?
It just came in my mind is like, what's the grind to that?
If
To
you
that?
search Knives Monroe, and you'll find a playlist called the Knives Monroe Legacy, and you'll find a few music videos
Yeah.
on there. Like the first 5 videos that I did that got me a lot of attention were free.
Mm.
But I was
Yeah.
starting. I was green. Like they're not. I don't. By the way, I don't have a demo reel. Like I don't.
Mhm.
I so don't feel that confident about my skill. Like I haven't chopped up a demo reel. You know. Like I don't. I don't want to do that. Um. So like music videos are cool. Today, like if I had to do it today, it would. Here's the thing. Like it's expensive, man. Like to rent the equipment. to get the people, to rent the building wherever you're at. People are taking time off or something. Like, you got to account, like, how much is this worth? I've gotten better at, I don't care where this thing lives. I don't care where the final video. It's not my responsibility to push it and to make it go viral. I'm going to make the thing, you do whatever you want with it. Bye. Like, I've gone through the motions so many times. I know how to build the upfront value and have those business conversations with these artists and help them, and also set the expectation up front. And all that is first before the money. It's easier when you have a website that has the proof of concepts and your portfolio, and they approach you and they say, I like what you did. Can you do this for me? Here's my song. And you have $750. That's what you charge per music video. And they say, I got 5. And you're like, okay, I'll do it. You had that conversation. It helps when you have an intermediary. The intermediary in that example is a website, right? So it's much harder when you don't have that portfolio. Like, you have to prove yourself. There's part of the come up and the not respecting it part is nobody gives a shit. And that's a good thing. Like, it's nobody's business if I'm successful, if I have self-worth. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're building their own dream. Like, there's solace in that. There's peace in that. It's like it's not personal in that way. It's my responsibility to wake up every day and get those reps in and get better. It's my responsibility. It still is. It still is. Like, I've been in the game long enough where, I guess I did get pretty okay at some of this stuff. I'm not the best. I'm comparing myself to the best. But if I compare myself to your average person, no one knows what shutter speed is, f-stop, aperture, ISO. They don't know. And so, maybe I am an expert in something, and I am. And once again, the validation. Like, now all of a sudden, like, I don't, this is a flex, but it's also reality. Like, I've done a podcast with Aubrey Marcus and Jocko Willink, and so you learn a lot seeing other people's setups, and like, you learn a lot when you get those reps in. And now I do feel like my time has become more valuable as a result of that. And I can't just I'll do consultations because it may lead to something cool. And I have to like the human. I have to like the person. Like, working with the group, I'm more inclined to work with you guys if you're cool. Like, if you guys are cool, I don't even want to talk about money in the beginning. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. But if you're cool, let's do some cool things together, And I can get blinded by that. Sure, of course. And I'm still learning. But if it's just about the money, man, like, I would have been a fucking lawyer or something. I would have, I don't know, like, my life would be different if I was just thinking about the money. It'd be different, man. But instead, I want to have cool experiences with people. I want to remember a lot of it. Otherwise, it's for nothing. And I want to leave behind, like, an interesting corpse and body of work. Like, I care about that, That's about the extent of it, too. Like, the money comes and goes. And even rich people come and go. They have it, they lose it. They have it, they fucking lose it. Like, that's for sure, And I rather learn. It's like the whole learn how to fish type of thing, as opposed to people giving me fish. I want to learn. I want to fucking learn. And I've done it. And so, I consider myself an expert and a professional, and I'm validated. And so now I have some experience. And so I can tell someone, here's what you need. You need these 5 things. This is what you need. If you want me to do it for you, it's the only way I can do it is if you pay me this much. That's the only way I can do it if you want it done. And if we automate that, that's how you do it. I talked to a photographer who bought a Red camera, and the way he figured was all I need to do is sign a client to a contract for, I think it was like $1,600 a month. Make a 6-month contract, and then we can renegotiate in 6 months. And if this guy pays me readily, or his business, $1,600 a month, he's like, I can pay off this Red camera in a year. So he did that. And so he never even paid for his Red. It was like the client paid for his Red. And I was like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. And you need to be around the block a few times and have the skills to pay the bills in order to pull that off. But as opposed to thinking, but how would I even do that? And like, why would I even get a Red? It's too expensive. And just like, man, all this negative shit. It's like, if we have the audacity to dream big and want a high-end lifestyle, then we got to turn that inward and say, what type of man do I need to be to accomplish that? It's a much more trustworthy person, a person that takes the risks. calculated though they may be sometimes, but it's someone that says, I'm going to do it because I want that buck, or I want that lifestyle, whatever it is. I want the Lambo or whatever it is, or I want the family, and I want to pay for the 4 kids. I got 4 kids, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, like it's a balancing act of what do I want, how do I want to get it? And it starts with, what do you want? Why do you want it? It's got to be compelling enough for you to see it through. If it's not, if it's just money for the sake of money, that's not enough. It's like saying I want to lose weight. Well, what does that mean? What you should say is I want to lose 30 pounds in 6 months for my health and because I want to look good naked. That's way more specific and compelling than just saying I want to lose weight. You know, so intent, the vocabulary, the specificity, it matters.
That was a long rap about music videos right there by Knives Monroe.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
What about commercial video, man? How does someone grind out there? See, I guess where I'm going out with this is like someone wants to enter the game of videography, whether they're 12 or 35. Their entry point, you know, is generally, from my experience and what I have done, is making videos for myself, showing it to people, random people, and then being like, oh, I like that. That's dope. Do that for me. Okay. I don't feel confident in saying, give me a $1,500 or whatever.
Yeah.
I say, let me try it and see if it works out. Yeah. Then I'm not held responsible necessarily because it's like, oh, it worked out. Great. If you want to do that again, it's going to be X amount of dollars, yada, yada, yada. Like, it has to work before you can say you can charge someone for it.
Yeah, 100%. You need that proof of concept. You need the experience. I would say there's 100 strategies out there on the internet that people can Google to know how to break into that scene. And they all don't amount to a hill of beans unless you know yourself really well and you know how you learn and you got to know what you're willing to do. If you hate the smell of nail polish, but you know that there's a lot of money in nail salons, you're probably not going to want to open one because you hate the nail polish, right? So you should do what contextually is the path of least resistance to you. If you're an extrovert, networking might not be the path to get into that business, you know? So it's kind of hard for me to give blanket advice. I can't. So instead it's more nebulous and more heady and more philosophical, which is, how do you get things done? Are you a morning person or a night person? It's going to change depending on, you know, that's going to change who's up, you know, during the times that you're optimized, right? So for me, I had to feel like I had the skills, and I let down a lot of people on my come up. I'm talking about the early 2000s. Like, I let down a lot of people. I showed up, I learned, I failed. You know, I put tens of thousands of dollars into a movie that I don't even have a frame of, a copy of, nothing. I can't even post a picture about it online because I'll get flagged or something from these people. And it's like, that experience would have been enough to make people walk away and quit, and it wasn't. Instead, I learned more about leadership and setting expectations in the front end. And you take that with you. You take all these mistakes and losses with you to the next endeavor. So I guess my blanket advice would be, go fuck up and have the courage, the bravery to go make mistakes, and try to make it as cheaply as possible, those mistakes. Like, go film a quinceañera for your cousin for free. Go film a wedding for your cousin for free. Start doing maybe a parody of a commercial for free. Put it on YouTube or something. Eventually, if you're hungry and your mind is like a shark, like automated to be looking for these opportunities, you're going to see where someone needs help, and you're going to want, how to add value for them. Hey, I think, if you have a tamale business, like, I think if you want to sell more tamales, I have an idea for a commercial. Let me make one for you. You can pay me in tamales in the beginning, or you could pay me $250. You might not even make a profit, but now you have a commercial. You can say, I've made a commercial, like, it's all about faking it till you make it. Nobody knows what they're doing. You have to just go out, and sometimes, even if you're afraid, like, close your eyes and swing, and you might surprise yourself, man. But nobody shows up a final product like they're a commercial filmmaker person. Like, No. If I were to go through film school today, like, it would probably only prepare me for like the year 2020. I'm sorry, the year 2002 or something. It wouldn't prepare me for today necessarily, you know. So I think today with the internet, you know, everybody just sees these final products, or even look at somebody like me and think, wow, easy for him. And it's like, no, it wasn't, man. You got to go out there and you got to fail and you got to risk it. You got to risk your reputation.
Yeah, I think a little nuance here. I did go to film school, for those of you who are listening, and my experience in film school, you know, I rushed through film school. I wasn't the person that could sit and take the whole gamut of the opportunities there. And yes, it gave me a boost towards doing what I was doing, but it didn't give me as much work experience as you would like. You know, I didn't go to the technical school like a Full Sail or anything like that, where you get to grind it out on like consoles and things like that, which would have been way more beneficial. But I went to the art of it, learning the art of it, respecting the forefathers of filmmaking and whatnot, because I didn't know shit about it before. I had to learn it through that system. And yes, it was an accelerated system, 4 years, and I learned it. It's in my brain. But I didn't go to school for business. So I'm at the same level with you as far as that goes. You know, yeah, I probably could. You could probably write a paper the same way that I could. Yeah. You know, those are all things you learn just grinding it out. Your 2 years of whatever an associate's degree could be is the same thing as like learning over 4 years in the streets of working hard, because they give you that education at a place like Apple or whatever, you know, that you worked at, Walmart, like I did, like you did.
Yeah, I would say the hard part is staying like up on what's new, you know, like staying relevant. That's the hard part. Like, there's so much of what I learned that doesn't matter today. There's so much of what I learned on my come up that, quite frankly, is irrelevant. Like, it's obsolete. It doesn't matter.
That's where universities, if you're really taking advantage of a university and you're taking those critical study courses, like those level 4, you know, graduate courses, is people are forced into a room that are on that cutting edge. And that's where you really get it, where you don't get it in your English 101 class. You know, like just grinding that out doesn't do the same thing.
I know it's cliche, but it's the school of hard knocks, man.
Yeah,
Trent Knox, yeah. The school of hard Trent Knox. No? You've probably thought of that.
Yeah, sometimes.
Finally, I get to make a pun about somebody else's name.
Yeah. I think that. So I brought up to you before we started doing this recording. Before I was like, so what does, you know, you went to the on your podcast where you were talking about your experience at the meetup.
Yeah.
You were talking about someone who had lofty ideas of being the next Joe Rogan Experience, and you explained how Joe Rogan got there.
Yeah.
And you were like, in order to get to the point at which you could hire someone like Jamie Vernon, you got to do all of those things. So for like us, you know, I look at these people like, I mean, Sam Tripoli's got his guy, you know, Lee Syed, Jamie Vernon. I see these guys. There's not like a school for that. You know, it's like you just stumble across someone who.
Well, I think Jamie did go to school for like audio. I think he's an audio engineer.
Yeah. But it was more music production, film production. It wasn't podcast producer. You know what I mean? That's not a thing, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, maybe now there's like master classes or something. But
well, I would laugh at that. I'd be
wouldn't.
Like, are you freaking kidding me?
I wouldn't.
Huh?
I wouldn't.
Well, that's odd.
No, I wouldn't.
Because you're kind of against the whole schooling thing.
I'm against paying 6 figures for a
right.
degree.
Okay, so you're saying a free master class.
No, but I mean 6 figures versus $600. I mean, which one's better, right?
I don't think you could learn in a you know, an hour master class or something like that. You're not learning.
What, how to produce a podcast?
Yeah, you're not learning that.
You can teach someone how to record a podcast. You can't teach someone how to be a good podcaster, right? That comes with reps. And I
don't think you could teach someone how to produce a podcast.
Of course you can. It's
not in an hour.
You could create a manual. probably do it in 5 minutes.
Right, and then
Here's
they have
the
to
gear.
have the ambition,
Exactly.
drive,
That
all
you
those
can't
things.
teach, but you could teach someone how to change their oil in their car, right? Like, of course you can. I think podcasting is like utilitarian in that way. Like, yeah, it's a tool. Of course you can.
Well, I think where we're you can show someone, but teach them is different. Teaching someone is, have they accomplished X goal and are they executing on it? And I don't think you could do that in an hour. No, there are going to be those extraordinarily, ambitious of them that could do it.
I think
But the
I think I could
majority of
teach.
people will
I think I
not.
could teach if my grandma was conscious. I think I could teach her in an hour.
I guess we're just like, I'm sure you could teach them some form of it, but
It's
some
actually. I just don't think it's
some
that difficult.
it is when you start doing the things that we do.
We do different things, but we also, you and me collectively, like both of us, do different things that other people don't do. One thing I learned about the podcast meetup was everybody had a different way of doing it, and it was interesting to see. You could tell who was really green and who had the experience and who had been doing it since like 2007 and who had just started.
Right, yeah.
And it was also relieving to hear, oh yeah, they've gone through the same road I have, or I've gone through the same. I've been doing it for only 4 years, and yeah, it's a few things in the beginning are kind of like rites of passage, like in terms of pains in the ass of what you learn about the actual technicality of it. But let me tell you something.
Were there other podcast producers, people who produce shows for other people?
Yeah, there was a few. There's like two that
Two.
that weren't personalities or that weren't on the show, but they just were like
Yeah.
engineers. Yeah, there was like two. I will say I messaged Brendan Schaub like a year ago, and I was like, hey man, but I also messaged like 300 other people. He was one of them, and maybe like 2 or 3 people got back to me. But Brendan got back to me, and I told him, hey man, like I like The Fighter and the Kid. I want to make some micro content for you for free. And he's messaged to me like in real time, and I don't know what he was doing. Like, how do you do that? Like, he must have. I don't know how that happened, but
It just happened.
It just happened.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I went into his other folder, and so it's just like he had to really have been on it, and he was like, cool. He's like, I'm in. That's great. We need that. Talk to Shin, the producer. I think his name's Shin, right? And I did.
I don't know.
And he responded. He has like a Jamie for The Fighter and the Kid, and he responded.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, cool. He's like, take a clip and show me what you got. And I did. And then he was like, cool. I like your style, man. I like your style. Do more. And I stopped because I got caught up in shit, and I got busy, and I had to do the stuff that I was being paid for. But that's one of those things that I'm like, what if I didn't stop? What if I kept going? I think that could have led to something. Money. I think it could have led to doing it for them on a regular basis and getting paid. I could have made a deal for like, I don't know, something as low as $500 a month or something like that, whatever, anything to do it. But I stopped. And so asking people like, how to get in, I think that's how you get in. Like, you got to have the skills, of course, but you got to, I very much believe in like the cold call, like the cold DM, and just saying, hey, but you have to bring the value. You can't ask.
The unfortunate thing is those guys are like traditional media. They're almost like, they're mainstream. When you look at the guys out there like that are on Twitch or YouTube that have a larger following, like that aren't like mainstream part of Joe's circle or whatever, like what do you say to those kids? They're like, okay, I see this up and coming Twitch streamer. I want to make micro content from him.
So I would say,
but those type of people you probably couldn't get any money out of them maybe some of them, but like the conversation's different.
To me, what you just said, like that's like a blanket. That's a generalization. I think that's like an auto negative.
Oh yeah, I am. I am generalizing for the audience. Because this is what the audience is thinking.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're thinking, how do I do it if it's so hard to talk to someone?
Right. So the internet makes it easy.
Said.
The internet makes it easy, man. Like.
Well, but even you said, like, I can't believe you answered.
If someone messaged me and said, "Hey, Knives, I like what you do," oh, even better, and they sent me something that they made for me. Here's this thing I made for you for your social media, and it was dope.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I'm going to add this guy as a friend. I'm going to follow him and say he sends me another one. Dude, that's great. Maybe I call him on the phone, and who knows where that leads. He got his foot in the door. So I think that's what those kids got to do. I don't care. I don't care if you're at the top or at the bottom. But at the same time, like, what do you want? Cash, grass, or ass? What do you want? What are you doing this for? Money? Well, then you got to talk to people that have it, man. You got to talk to people that have the money. Sometimes it's the mainstream folk, and maybe they have it, maybe they don't. Maybe they got the budget for it, maybe they don't. You're not going to know until you try. And it's not like do it once. I always tell my son, who's struggling in math, who has not passed math for 6 weeks in a row, and now, since it's a new semester, he's like, I'm passing math now. And I said, I don't give a fuck that you're ahead in the first quarter of the game. Like, finish the 6 weeks. Finish the game. Don't get high off your supply in the first quarter, right? So, on the same token, like, for these kids who are doing the cold DMs, don't just message 100 people once. You got to do it every fucking day until you don't need to anymore. That's business. I mean, that's business, man. Like, it is. It's the cold messages. It's the calling. The reason why I was able to...
The trouble is you wonder, like, at what point do you turn into, like, the Horcrux of Lord Voldemort? You split your soul too much. Like, now you're like, oh, gotta do all this free shit, man.
You got to see what you're made of.
You got no time to make money.
You got to see what your breaking point is. David Goggins says, when you think you got nothing, you're actually have only gone up to 40%. That's what he says. You know, so you got to know what your breaking point is. I've reached it once or twice. And then you got to reassess and be like, I can't do that.
It's tough listening to David. It's a little bit David Goggins, or I don't know. It's just tough listening to him because I don't know why. Maybe like just different come ups. So, you know,
yeah, I fancy myself as like I want to be I want Knives to be ubiquitous with like Casey Neistat, where someone says, "Here's Knives' philosophy." I don't want to take Casey's real estate. He's got his real estate and I got mine. But I want to carve my little state, and for people that fuck with me and my state of mind, my philosophy, and I want to talk to them. Even if it's 40 people, if it's 400, if it's 400,000, whatever it is. Like, for me, with time and experience and pain and regrets and all those things, like, I'm very much about that.
Yeah. Were you born in Mexico?
No, I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, you're born in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we kind of relate. So I came from Nevada, or Nevada, as some of the Texas people call it.
It's Nevada.
Yeah. So in Texas, what do you think the voice is? Because New York has their voice, LA has their voice.
For what scene? Every scene is different.
Yeah, but it's pretty much, there's a dominant voice in New York and there's a dominant voice in California. But as far as the Texas scene...
But there's a difference, like, political voice and there's a hip-hop voice, two different spectrums, right? So, like, which demographic are we talking about specifically?
I guess we're talking about the hip-hop voice.
I don't know.
We're not hip-hop in the traditional sense, but in the scholastic sense of, like, the what's going on. Like, the who's in the know.
You mean cool people.
Cool. Yeah, cool people.
Oh gosh, you're asking like the lamest, corniest dude that you know. Like I don't have the answer to that. I will say,
you
like,
are cool. You are technically in the cool factor of people from Texas.
I could be way cooler then, if that's true. I could be way cooler. I'm not cool enough.
Why are we like that then?
I've been in
Austin
Austin
for coolest people in Texas from Texas.
I don't think it's
that
Austin.
Represent Texas.
I'll say that. I don't think it's Austin. I don't think the cool people are here. I don't think they are. I could be wrong. There's some cool people here. I think like maybe I would never want to live in Houston, but I think there's cooler people in Houston. I think Houston's more happening. I think there's cool stuff happening in San Antonio.
So you think the trouble is just Texas is so big that there's no one collective voice?
I don't, and this is something I know you're about, which is like the scene. And you said this on Kern's podcast, and this is why I love you. You said that ostensibly you're looking for your own tribe, and me too. I'm trying to find my people, and I increasingly like. I feel like I check a lot of people and groups off. I'm like, well, it's not the Catholics. Well, it's not the hip hop scene. It's not the videographer scene. It's not the wedding videographer scene. It's not the YouTuber scene. And I keep I'm like, damn, who are my people? You know, and what if it is podcast people? What if it is? What if it is? I have not checked that one off. Like I'm still playing with that. So I don't know. I know that I'll tell you this. I found out at that place that there's like a podcast con. I have it written down somewhere. You probably
A
know
convention for podcasting.
Yeah. And it's usually in California, although I hear it started in Texas. And they're coming to Dallas, and it's
Okay.
it's in August. It's called Podcast Movement. And maybe I should go to that, and see if those are my people. What if they are? What if I'm one of these guys? I don't know. So, I too am trying to find my tribe. I don't think it's. I'm
But what do
finding
you
more and
like?
more.
This is the trouble I think I find myself in. I like esports.
Yeah.
I like gaming. I go to those events and I'm like, these people are nothing like me. Like these people, like I
Yeah.
feel like and there's a little niche area where it's like the sports games or whatnot. Even though I play like the more like fantasy games too, it's just like there's a little corner off that they shove you in when you're like me, play sports games or like sports, and then the larger people like the ninjas and the Tifus and those Tim the Tatmans out there, they have a bigger, even though they kind of look like me, but they don't act like me. They don't, they don't represent Texas. They don't represent the South. They represent the Northern California.
Where does that
East Coast.
home field pride come from?
For me,
Yeah.
probably because I grew up playing Texas football.
You really think that's what it is?
Probably, yeah.
I would say
Most likely.
I would say it's. Man, part of me wants to say it's not there, but like the cool kids in class in YouTube and the vlogger videographer world are like Canadians, and they all know each other.
Yeah, true. That's
And it's
so
like,
true.
but I ain't cool like you. I ain't hot like you. I don't got that tick like you. Therefore, dude, I'm not in that crowd. So I don't know. But it seems like you're searching for that validation as well, like the people to be yourself around, the brotherhood.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like, it's hard because when you look at these other folks and like, I bring up things from like Texas, Austin, and I specifically felt like I'm not authentic enough to be representing Texas, because I come from somewhere else, born somewhere else. I wasn't born and bred here. And this is something that I get from like, this perspective is actually comes from Hawaii, because in Hawaii, if you weren't born there, bred there, raised there, you're what they call a haole. And so I'm like, I took that mentality, that negative mentality to Texas. I'm like, oh my God, everyone I grew up with is like, they don't represent that type of feeling. Everything seems disconnected. It feels even more disconnected than it did before.
It's like what I said about going to school and then you're out and you don't have the tools in the present to actually implement what you learned, at least in film.
Which is
like
irony
you spend most of your life unlearning what you've learned.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of your growth. All of our growths is unlearning that. I think that's part of growing up. Is saying, that Hawaii mindset doesn't fucking work for me. I ain't about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, they said in The Irishman, like they called prison school. How long are you going to go to school for?
Yeah. It's
like, man, I think like my mindset sometimes, I feel like I'm imprisoned in this old mindset of like the way things are. I'm not to the point in which I'm like Eddie Bravo flat earthing it, but it's like
you are like, though.
Dang, man.
You are though. You are though, and you are. That is a conflict in you, and I connect with that, and that's like a recurring theme on my show. Is like I talked to someone who was like a good YouTuber back in the day. He had 3 million views, and he was growing, and he stopped, and now he shows up today. Life happened. He shows up, and he's like, I can't do what I used to do, and it doesn't work anymore. That is also a part about like getting older and trying to fit in. That's part of this. It's part of this. Yeah. You're on the path. This is normal. Something I wrote down in 2010. Once again, one of those old notebooks. I must have got it from.
You've got the blur on, so nobody can see it.
Yeah. Well, I don't want anybody to see. Oh, I think I have it. I don't have autofocus on, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think I got it from a TED Talk. It's called "The Growing Up Paradoxes." Paradox number 1, rejecting the past and then promptly reclaiming it. Paradox number 2, sobering up about our smallness and maintaining faith in our greatness. But the sobering up about our smallness part, I think, is totally key. And then paradox number 3, aiming to succeed wildly, then being fulfilled with failing really well. And I've done that a few times. It's about like just, it's not going to be a perfect backflip. Let me just jump off of this canyon and it's going to be sketchy. And but I did it, right? Like as a, you know, but when you grow up, you think you're going to do the perfect backflip off of the canyon, you know, and it's just funny.
You know what's
like,
troubling about that though?
Yeah.
Is like the whole Disneyland, it's a small world after all, like that whole thing. And it really, sometimes it's so fucked as it is because you'll be walking down a road and all of a sudden it's like
that hasn't happened to me.
This random person.
But it's programming.
Like, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, you got programmed. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We have to unlearn like things that don't help us today. I feel it as a parent. Like the way I grew up, there's a lot that I do take from my mom. There's a lot that I don't. I take it and I leave it, and I make up a lot of it. And meanwhile, I'm fucking up my kids one way or the other.
You've never experienced that?
What?
When you're just like you're in a coffee, you're like in a coffee house, and all of a sudden someone you know like walks in, and you're like, oh, I remember them from my old job at
not here,
KFC.
Not in Austin.
That's
my
never
hometown,
happened.
my hometown every day, but not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Oh, in your hometown every day?
Yeah.
Man, that's strange. I guess I don't go out enough to. Pretty much everyone that I know has moved out of my hometown, which is here. So it's like I'm here, kind of presiding over what is about to be gone. It's pretty much gone at this point.
You know, like that meme, the expectations versus reality meme. That's part of the growing pains of what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
It's really, I think what we need to do if we want to succeed and get shit done and be fulfilled is let go of a lot of old brain thinking and risk being seen and being hurt. That's like what, and we have the scar tissue for it, man. I think about it all the time. Like, I think the worst is behind me. And then my mom's going to die today. I don't know. But, like, I think I've been hurt really, really bad. It might not get worse. It's got to be getting better. And I think it is. I think it is getting better. Our problems in my house are bougie compared to what my problems in my house was 3 years ago, 5 years ago.
But then I hear these stories of, like, for instance, Robert and I brought on another person, Steve Joyner, who's a podcast. Basically, he's a public representative or a PR agent, and he's going to book some more guests for us from around the world. And his brother died today, drug overdose.
Oh my God, it's fucking horrible.
So it's like you hear these stories, and it's like, shit, man. Yeah. It is short. Like you go along in your age, and then something does happen. Yeah. And then you're back 6 steps again. Oh yeah. And and how do you treat something like that? Do you treat it with alcohol, drugs? Do you treat it with sex? How do you treat that hurt inside? I have not been hurt inside like that before, so I don't have the answer, and I can't tell you what I've done. I'm scared. I hope that I'm a hippie about it, and I'm one of those guys that is like, oh, my mom died. She graduated. Like I hope I can look at things that way. The truth is, like, I might be the guy that throws myself on her coffin and is like, take me. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm very sensitive, so it could kill me. If my children, something happened to my kids, like, I can't picture life going on, So, but what if, how could you spin that into a blessing? What would I do? I don't know. It'd be scary, dude. My stepdad, or who I call my father, went through it with his mother, and I was there before she died, and I just didn't know her well enough to really have that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I shed some tears. Don't get me wrong. But it was like next day was back to business.
Yeah. How old were you?
How old was I? 19 or 20, I think, something like that. So like I experienced it. My dad, I remember him being very emotional about it. But back to business next day. But he's in the military, so he's got that.
Yeah, man.
you know, shit's got to go on mentality.
Yeah.
Was in the military. He's now retired. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, I've had people pass, and I've had friends pass, and it been like, dude, what? Like for real? Like how did this? Why? Like were they not being careful? Were they not like what did they do? Like did they walk out of the house the wrong way that day? Or
Just
like,
we're all every single one of us are gonna die. That's all.
yeah,
Some
true, true,
sooner
true.
than later. Some before us, some long after us, as they say on Lost, the TV show. I don't know, man. Like I'm scared. Like I will say this. Like I think almost daily, like about my mom dying, my kids dying.
Yeah,
I think about my brother, something terrible happening, and I get really grateful, and I call them on the phone. I tell them how much I love them, but I never think about Claire, my wife, dying. I never think about that. And then when
but
I
are you
think
at all
about,
concerned about like her
of
safety?
course,
Like,
but
yeah,
I always just think she's gonna be there. And so if something were to
yeah,
happen, if she was gone, dude, that would cut me in half into a million pieces. I couldn't. I couldn't. I can't even imagine. I can't. I don't have the bandwidth to imagine. So, it's
yeah,
real talk. It's real talk. But you have to. You have. You can't live there in that fear. You can't.
true. What about like, I mean, for, I agree. I have a military family, so around this, this time, around any time, anybody could go, and fight a war. You know what I mean? And with that, like this time right now is kind of you- this is when there's a lot of war conversation going on right now. Like, are you concerned at all about any of that? Like the Iran, the Russia, the China, like the war. Every country that we talk about right now is a potential state to go to war with, even Mexico to a certain extent.
I'm concerned about it, but everybody's gonna die. Like I also feel like I'm concerned about planes crashing and cars hitting me when I'm running, and I'm concerned about somebody shooting up my daughter at school. I'm concerned about everything. So honestly,
Yeah, I don't understand that one because I'm not a parent,
yeah.
but
But
I'm sure a lot of parents really
war is
think
always
about
on my
that.
mind. War is always on my mind. Like we're always at war, you know. But also the collective, like what's going on in Hong Kong and what's going on in Australia. Like there's shit. There's an apocalypse happening every day, every single day. It's an ongoing
Hmm.
apocalypse, and so the question becomes, how are you scared, or what are your thoughts on when the apocalypse happens to you, right? Like
Right.
that's when it gets personal. You know,
And faith, faith, Christianity in the traditional sense is supposed to protect you from that.
it does. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But did you feel like 2019 for a year it didn't seem like there was as much war talk
No,
or
I think there was like North Korea. People were scared about that for real. There's a lot of
oh
stuff that
yeah,
was
I don't
going on,
really.
but like in the 24-hour news cycle, it gets squashed, and then it's the next thing, you know. So right now
Yeah.
it's Iran, but you know, we're just one, you know, shooting spree away from talking about gun control again, you know. So it's the conversations are simultaneously always the same, and they're always changing depending on
Yeah, I
whatever agenda is important at that time. It's like the
yeah, I
weather.
think that it's interesting to hear like some of the stories that are coming out of Iran right now where like the plane that they actually accidentally shot down, they claimed it was a bunch of Americans, but then Justin Trudeau goes onto the mainstream outlet and says there were X amount of Canadians and mostly Canadians and Iranians, and it was just like, shit, man. Like, what world are we living in where the narratives in other countries are not being painted, you know, truthfully or in the same way that you know the same way that we are. I don't know whether to think that we're we're taking advantage of a situation or someone else's.
I think perception is reality, and people have been spinning the negative for their upside since the beginning. I mean, don't they say that Kim Jong Un like went to the moon, or like, you know, created electricity or something in North Korea? Like, don't they flagrantly just lie over there and spin their own fiction and their own history. I think they do, but everybody does it. I mean, religions do it. Scientology, Mormons, Christians, everybody does it. So everybody just wants to pretend there's no boogeyman, pretend like, you know, they don't see the strings, but the truth is there's death all around us. I mean, if you want to go there, I mean, there's death all around us. It reeks, you know, all around us all the time. And people disappoint you when you get to know them long enough. You know, I see it. I experience it every single day. People are fighting on the border, you know, where I grew up. There was a border town, and the border patrol that's there. I mean, people are dying trying to get in. You know, people have died to get to my uncle's ranch, you know, and it was just another Tuesday, you know. So it's been going on before us. It's going to go on after us. Everybody thinks that they're living in the end times. Like, I will say, as a millennial, something I'm semi-proud of, I got to wear it like a badge of honor, is I've lived through, I don't know how many apocalypses, you know.
Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, my camera. You should be able to hear me, but hold on.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen. I'm such a pro. I knew this was going to happen. I know exactly how to edit this. But as a millennial, I mean, I've lived through so many apocalypses, through Y2K, 9/11, you know, the war, the Gulf War, the war of Afghanistan, the war of Iraq, Obama's presidency, this, like, you know, we've seen so much just in our time, you know. I think we live in a perpetual state of post-traumatic stress, and also we're desensitized, you know. I don't know where it starts. It's a chicken or egg thing. I think we're just inoculated in this as soon as we're born, and I think that's why America has so many. I think this is why we're consumer centric, you know, because the fatter we can get people, the more numb and screens we can put in front of people, the less the fear will take over, and instead we'll kill ourselves.
Because so many people want to talk about that whole, like, the internet is causing the problem. But
no, I don't agree with that.
What happens if you take it away? Like, then it's only the powerful have the internet. It's like,
yeah, that's the way it already is. People in North Korea and China don't have it at scale. So technically, us, the privileged, the heathens, we have it, and they don't. They hate us for it, you know. So
sometimes I think small-minded as far as that goes. Like, I'm like, shit, man, what's gonna happen to my people? You know, when I say my people,
that's okay.
I'm like USA.
It's every man for himself. You know, like it's every. You know what I mean? No, we that's normal. That's part of it. You know, I think about that too. I think mostly in, like, how does this serve filmmakers? Like, all the time. Like, when the Academy Award nominations came out, I'm like, who the fuck actually really cares? This doesn't fucking matter. The accolades of somebody else. I think the difference
is that people know those names, and I think it's troublesome whenever you have an award show in hip-hop and gaming or any other industry other than directly filmmaking, that people just don't know the names. Like, I think it would be outlandish if there was a Texas Filmmaking Awards.
There probably is. There probably is. There's something.
Ooh.
I don't know, but there probably is, for sure.
Yeah.
There's tens of thousands of film festivals to submit your work to. Like, there's tons of things. There's so much, but it's all cotton candy, man. Like, the mainstream bubble of, you know, what did Cardi B say or what did Joaquin Phoenix say? Like, I don't care about that the older I grow up. And people that, it's funny, like, I see film fanatics, critics, Twitter people, Twitterverse people who will be like, Adam Sandler didn't get nominated, like, what a travesty. Lupita Nyong'o didn't get nominated, what a travesty. It's no different than, like, you know, the Seahawks fans being butthurt that they didn't make it. Like, it's the same primal, my tribe didn't, you know, it's the same that. And but both look at one another and think the other is uninteresting. It's the whole left-right thing, both calling a spade, and it's funny to be in the middle and just say, fuck this food fight, like, fuck this, I'm over this, you know? Yeah, I feel that way sometimes.
So I think that's where sometimes you and I get at odds, because most of the time we're in the middle. We're kind of, like, you know, I'd say you're probably conservative. I'm conservative. And I think sometimes though, around other people, it may draw, us at odds to going, right or left. I'll be like, you should have went right. Why did you go right? You know what I mean?
I wonder, like the left and right thing. The question I want to know, more importantly than like, are you conservative or liberal or whatever, is how did you get here? Why do you feel this way? What events? Or do you look at scientifically and you say, no, I let the data direct how I feel about this. Like, I don't want to get into this tangent. We'll save it for another podcast. Like how we define democracy and how like the voting process should go. What is democracy? Like technically it's just an illusion in America. The way we vote a president in, it's rigged, if you're left and the right, like most people either think that's the way it is, or most people hate both of those things, and so they're connected in that way, and they're one and the same. Regardless, like, I'm more interested in like, how should it be, and why do you feel that way? Like, if everybody had to design their own utopia, there is no one utopia, So that's part of the cool thing about having kids is like my house, my rules. And yeah, maybe my son one day will be like, "Fuck you, Dad," and that's fine. But it's like I have to govern this house, and that's all I can do. I can't govern the country or the world. When people have the audacity to think, here's the definitive way, like gun control should be, I don't care what their opinion is. I want to know why they feel that way. Usually it is tribal, and lately it's been, well, I have to feel this way if I want to fit in with this group over here. And that to me is like, that doesn't hold. That's you don't have a conviction then. You just don't want to get spanked, and it's like, man, you're weak. But people that do have a conviction, I can agree with them, on one way or the other. It's like the abortion, pro-life thing. Like, I hear both sides. I get both sides. I agree with both sides. But when people don't have a conviction about it, I'm curious why they feel the way that they do. They typically just want to fit in. We got to wind down here. We're approaching the 2-hour mark. I like it, but I'm getting blown up right now. Anything that you want to get in to put a bow on this, and I say it like, think about this podcast a week from now. I might edit a few parts out of it, mostly about what. But maybe I won't. I don't know. I have to hear it back. But
I live streamed the whole thing. I'm kidding.
Oh God. Well, I would eat it if you did. Something I can do about it. But
I didn't do it. I was thinking about it, but I just couldn't get all the pieces together.
You would have done it if you could, is what you're saying. But in closing, man, I'll make my piece, and then I'll let you take as long as you want to recontextualize this. I love you, even if even against my better judgment, I do. Because I see myself in you. I just do. Myself and you today. Not who I've been, myself and you today. And I love your brain and grappling with you on issues, because I get to a better place that I could have never gone by myself. And there's something special about you, No Smoke, that other people usually just tell me what they've heard or what they read about, and they're just copies of imitations. They're automatons, and I don't want... people's opinions are usually like neutral or nothing. You have something, and I feel like you die on your own sword, and it's extreme, and I'm an extreme person. I only got highs and lows, and I like that about you, and so I want to be friends, and I'm sorry, like, for being an asshole. I'm sorry for coming in hot, but I also knew that cooler heads will prevail, or whatever that quote is. And so I wanted to have this conversation with you when I chilled the fuck out and you crossed your own bridge and, all that. And so I feel okay about this. How you doing? How you feel?
That was great wording.
Where we at?
Great wording. I love that too. I love you, and I love what you do. I love the process of it all. And I think that's a very beautiful thing that you said right there, was that you see yourself in me, and it's almost like you don't always have that opportunity to soundboard with yourself in ways. And so like I kind of see that with you as well. I think that it is a little bit of a struggle because because of your age, a little bit being older. So like you can see like I may have done this thing, but then I don't have like the life experience as much as you do. So then I'm like, oh well, you know what? I got some of the video experience, and I probably pretty close on that. But you might even be more in ways that I am. So like I think of things like when you say that I have an opinion, I'm like, man, do I really? I mean, I watch Twitch, which is kind of a niche thing. Like it's niched out. So I hear some people being like, just repeating YouTube or just repeating the Fox News or whatever. I hear these perspectives, different perspectives. For instance, I was going to promote this one podcast that I listened, or 3 podcasts that I listened to last night was Yes Politics, Doomer Hours, and I also listened to the Raj Royale, which is basically, you know, I'd like to get to the point where this makes sense for me, is where 6 or 12 people get on a podcast and just start yelling, you know, and just shouting their opinions, you know, and hosting something like that, but being able to curate like how that's packaged, because I just don't think that the platform Twitch, YouTube, whoever's doing that out there, Facebook, whatever platform that someone's doing this, they're not packaging it in a way that you or I could package it and provide it to the mainstream, you know. And it's just, you know, that's the thing. Like my perspective is going to be kind of nuanced and niched in ways, just because I look for those 10 viewer, 6 viewer people out there and being like, man, he's grinding it. He's going to make it. He's going to do it. He's that frog. He'll get over the hill. He'll do it as long as he grinds and keeps on doing it. And I kind of envy those people who do it, because, man, I mess it up all the time. Like right now I haven't focused on personal branding at all. I'm focused on trying to do podcasts like these and get on other people's shows and try and network and whatnot. And I haven't been grinding a podcast like you. Like I did this last year a little bit, what you're doing right now.
I remember.
Not as much, but yeah.
No, I remember. It was inspiring. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I think that's about what I had to say. And I don't really have anything to promote because this is more a personal thing with you and me. I mean, we've promoted so much, it's kind of crazy. But True. For me, like, I'm not selling T-shirts, you know, not now. I mean, obviously, you know, there are clients of ours that do sell T-shirts and do things like that. And sometimes I find out, like, to what degree do I wear the shirt and sell the shirts too? Mm-hmm. You know, for Brian, sometimes I'll wear the shirt, sometimes I'll sell it, you know. For you, I don't actually know if you sell T-shirts, but
I don't. When the time comes to monetize this podcast, I would wear
the Monroe shirt, and I'd sell that T-shirt.
Well, thank you. When the time comes to sell ads or monetize this podcast, I'll be pushing a book, or I'll be pushing a movie that I made, or something of that sort. I'm not gonna sell Squarespace ads.
Yeah, no, that's hard. That's tough.
I don't believe in it. When that time comes, I felt like this was the most Knives Monroe-iest versus Knives Monroe versus the podcast. This was the most version of that I've had so far. It was very intense. It got scary for me, and that's exhilarating. It's like a free fall. It's jumping out of the airplane, and you know, when people skydive and they do it, that free fall lasts 50 seconds. This one lasted 2 hours. So, thank you.
Have you ever been in a gang?
In a gang?
Gang, like a gang.
No.
Tribe?
No.
Team?
I mean, I had I was backyard wrestlers with my friends, but that was like not our identity. We were just people that did it every Friday. Yeah. And I think people in high school saw me as that guy. Oh, he's that crazy wrestler guy, and it's like, oh, that's funny. But I don't.
Getting conflicts? Like obviously, but like outside of your tribe, getting conflicts.
I try not. I try to keep that same energy and like for the karma, dude, like so I can sleep. I try not, but I've had adversaries and nemesis and shit for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, mine is I like I said before, like the whole thing is like I've been in pretty bad situations. You know, I almost felt like that was gonna be the way that Tanner and I went. You know, in ways was just like, dude, no, you're not coming. You know, to Texas and fucking up the scene. Like, no, we're not playing that shit. But it had cooler heads prevailed, in ways like that. And I never thought of that with you at all. Like, I always thought that, with you, relating to the home nature of this would have been like, yo, man, this is our home. Like, we got to protect the house. Like, that's how it goes down. And when I think that it's like, man, you might be surrounding yourself with things that don't protect your home, I would be like, yo, that's where I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, from there, it's a loving standpoint. It was just like frustrating to be like, maybe I'm doing that. He called me out for this, but I want to express myself why I think it's not that way. And then I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll see as far as that goes. I think it's troubling. And to sum it up, I think it's troubling. It's just troubling to be young in this time. In this time, it's so troubling to be young. And I think that the way that people perceive you isn't that. They see you as wise, someone to look up to.
Monroe?
You've got kids. You've got something more established. You are part of the establishment.
That's a fucking riot. That's a riot. It is hard to be young. You're gonna look back and see how easy it was, I think.
True.
Because it's fucking hard right now. It's hard right now. It's hard. It's hard when you work so hard and you put in your everything for something. You put in your 20s for something, your youth into one thing, and then you get it and you're like, is this all there is? It's a whole nother racket. The what's next racket is a racket indeed, man. Trent Knox TV and all the things. Trent Knox, check out his podcast. He's got it going on. If you're local and you're in Austin and you need someone that's got the skills to pay the bills, I recommend Trent Knox. He's probably the only dude that I do vouch for, especially in person. So if you're in the scene, Trent Knox. Trent, thanks so much for doing this. This was crazy, but I think we're better now. I think it's gonna be okay. And
we got to get the bigger stuff going off, like the good content and whatnot.
I'm in. This was
bigger projects going off.
This was a teachable moment for me, and it's just so you know, like, this is evidence that, maybe I'm a part of the establishment, but the establishment can still learn and still be better and still fail in public and wince and hurt in public and not look cool in public, and that's part of it. And so thank you for giving me a platform to do that, and I'm glad we did.
I appreciate you. 100%.
Yes, well, thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the call, man, and I'm going to put this up. So if you're listening to this and you made it this far, it's January 13th. It's a Monday. If you made it this far, find Trent Knox on the internet and DM him, text him, email him, write him up on his website, cybercitymedia.com, correct? And let him know that you made it 2 hours to the end of the podcast, and just pay it forward and give him that push. He deserves it. Thanks, Trent, for coming on. I mean that.
Indie Darlings at the end of this, just to give him a promo too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need is more promo.
It's a great group.
I love you, man.
Other filmmakers, local filmmakers and whatnot.
I love you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, peace.